The hour of convening having arrived, all members of the House will please come to the floor and take seats. All members will please come to the floor of the House and take their seats. The clerk will ring the bell. All members will come to the floor. We're going to have the morning roll call here momentarily. All members will come to the floor of the House. We're going to have the morning roll call. All members present will please vote green to signify their presence in the chamber, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. Doorkeepers will please close the doors and keep them closed. Good morning, everyone. Do I need to remind you today is Legislative Day 29? I didn't think so. We're going to have scripture reading and prayer by the chaplain, after which we will pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. Our chaplain this morning will be introduced by the representative from the 64th House District, Representative Virgil Flood. Representative Flood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the House. It is indeed a privilege and an honor to introduce the chaplain of the day. This is a gentleman that I've known for some 30 years. Minister Kennebrew is a native of Columbus, Georgia. His father retired from the United States Army, and his mother worked at Fort Benning with the Civil Service. He was actively involved in high school sports, which led him to becoming a 3-year starter at the football powerhouse that is known as Davidson College. He majored in political science and later obtained a Master of Ministry degree from Luther Rice Seminary. He was ordained as a minister at Mount Moriah Baptist Church in Tucker, Georgia in 2002. When not tending to his ministerial duties, Reverend Andre Kennebrew is senior consultant for talent acquisition at Chick-fil-A. And joining him today are Darlene Brister and Gloria Cox. Please recognize them. If you guys would please stand. Before joining Chick-fil-A, he spent 15 years at Wells Fargo Bank. He currently serves as Mount Moriah's Sunday school teacher and tribe leader. He and his wife Donna have been married for some 24 years. They have 2 children, Holden and Kristen, and Donna is an 8th grade teacher at Tucker Middle School. Andre and his family are proud to call Georgia home and are staunch supporters of the Georgia public school system. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you my friend, Reverend Andre Kennebrew.
Good morning, House. Good morning. To the Honorable Speaker and to Representative Flood, and I do want to acknowledge Representative Calvin Smyer this morning. About 30-something years ago, when I was playing football in high school in my glory days, he was a great inspiration to me. He was at an awards banquet and actually gave me an award for the most valuable player of the year that year. And so it's been that long since I have known him. He probably does not remember me, but I certainly remember him. This morning our scripture will come from 1 Timothy 2, 1 through 2, and it reads as follows. First of all, then, I urge that supplications, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings be made for all people, for kings and all who are in high positions, that we may lead a peaceful and quiet life, godly and dignified in every way. And if I had a title to my talk this morning in my brief time, it would be Pray for Peace for the Princes and Princesses of Georgia. And of course, that would be you guys. I'm titling Princes and Princesses of Georgia. You serve in high positions. You serve in a role that is to make decisions that add to the peaceful and quiet life of Georgia's citizens. One thing you learn from this text is that our prayers are to be intense. And I know that you guys have sessions that are intense, and as intense as your sessions are, the people's prayers for you are to be just that intense. It's a shame in this day that more folks will write you and complain than they will pray for you. And so our prayers for this morning is that more Christians, more of Georgia's people will pray for you and that you will have peace. As you consider that the work you have today, I also would like you to remember that you are to show kindness and peace to one another. The best biblical example that I can give you is from King David. In 1 Samuel, David had become an enemy of the current king, King Saul. And there were a couple of occasions where he had an opportunity to kill King Saul. And as time went on and the king died, rather than feel the joy and jubilance of what would seem he would have because the king who was trying to kill him was dead, David mourned. Not only that, King David looked for a way to show kindness to King Saul's family. Later on, even having King Saul's grandson come and live and eat at the king's table. It takes a great man or a great woman to be able to forgive and to work together when they have been shown kindness by their enemy and something great happens for them. But if you think about American history, there are some examples. Abraham Lincoln was one of those men who at the end of the war said, let's be easy on our Confederate brothers. And then there's our own son of Georgia, Martin Luther King. He was able to do this, to show this kind of forgiveness and this kind of love. At the crux of Christ's message to all mankind. It is that we are to love and to pray for our enemies. And this is the greatness that the state of Georgia and its people are asking you to show towards one another. Even as you take on this day of deciding bills, of deciding laws, that at the end of the day, that you make decisions that will add to a peaceful life and quiet life for all of Georgia's citizens, and that you as a body demonstrate what it's like to love and to forgive. That is the expectation that I have for you guys. And I think that is the expectation that the people of Georgia have for you as well. Let us pray. Father, we pray for each of our state representatives today, that they would display the same spirit toward one another that David showed toward King Saul and his family, a spirit of forgiveness, a spirit of love. We also pray that our state representatives, as they are making decisions today, that they are able to set aside, Lord, their personal perspective so that they might see what is good for the whole of all. We pray, Lord, that all selfish ambitions and all desires for power would cease today, and that as discussions take place, that all things will lead to peace among these men and among these women. And finally, we pray that Christians everywhere would begin to pray for those in authority, that all people may live a peaceful and quiet life that honors you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. 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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Doorkeepers will unlock the doors. Chair recognizes Chairman Sims, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Information and Audits has read the proceedings of the previous legislative day and found them to be correct.
Chairman Sims, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, reports that the journal of the previous legislative day has been read and found to be correct. Is there any objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. The clerk will read the resolution establishing the order of business for the day.
Mr. O'Neill, the 146, moves the following be established as the order of business during the first part of the period of the unanimous consents: introduction of bills and resolutions, first reading and reference to bills and resolutions, second reading of bills and resolutions, reports of standing committees, third reading passage, uncontested local bills, morning orders, rules, calendar, privilege resolutions, through the resolution establishing the order of business for this legislative day.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution establishing the order of business for the day? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. First reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 525 by Representative Tankersley, 160th. The bill to be entitled Act authorize the governing authority of the City of Statesboro to increase excise tax.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 526 by Representative Willard of the 51st. Bill to be entitled Act create the North Fulton Regional Radio System Authority.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 527 by Representative Jones, 47th. Bill to be entitled Act, the Minute Act to incorporate the City of Milton.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 528 by Representative Yates, the 73rd. Bill to be entitled Act authorizing the governing authority, City of Peachtree City, excise tax.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 529 by Representative Hardin, 148th. Bill to be entitled Act authorize the governing authority, City of Cordele.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 530 by Representative Jacobs, 80th. Bill to be entitled Act Title 15 relating to civil proceedings, Magistrate Court.
Judiciary.
House Bill 531 by Representative Jacobs, 80th. Bill to be entitled Act relating to exemptions for purposes of bankruptcy.
Judiciary.
House Bill 532 by Representative Jacobs, 80th. Bill to be entitled Act relating to use of safety belts, passenger vehicles.
Judiciary.
House Bill 533 by Representative Caldwell, the 20th. Bill to be entitled Act Title 50 relating to general provisions for state government.
Judiciary.
House Bill 534 by Representative Houston, 170th. Bill to be entitled Act providing for homestead exemption, City of Tifton.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 535 by Representative Allison, the 8th. Bill to be entitled Act creating Rabun County Convention Visitors Bureau.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 542 by Representative Dutton, 157th. Bill to be entitled Act providing new charter, City of Hagen.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 543 by Representative Gravely of the 67th. The bill to be entitled Act authorize governing authority of Douglas County to levy an excise tax.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 544 by Representative Turner, 21st. Bill to be entitled Act creating Office Commissioner, Cherokee County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 545 by Representative Stovall, 74th. Bill to be entitled Act create the Metropolitan Atlanta Aerotropolis Development Authority.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Resolution 570, Representative Williams, 168. Resolution on the life of Reverend Willie Anderson, dedicating the interchange bridge in his memory.
Transportation.
Senate Bill 76 by Senator Jackson II. Bill to be entitled Act Title 38 relating to veterans benefits.
Defense and Veterans Affairs.
Senate Bill 96 by Senator Mullis, 53rd. A bill to be entitled Act Title 15 relating to Solicitors General, State Courts.
Judiciary non-civil.
Senate Bill 101 by Senator Ginn, 47th. A bill to be entitled Act relating to buildings, housing, crimes, and offenses.
Public Safety and Homeland Security.
Senate Bill 156 by Senator Tolson, the 20th. Bill to be entitled Act relating to definitions relative to surface mining.
Natural Resources and Environment.
Senate Bill 160 by Senator Ginn of this 47th. Bill to be entitled Act relating to verification of new employees.
Judiciary non-civil.
Senate Bill 168 by Senator Tippins, 37th. Bill to be entitled Act relating to bonds, contracts for public works.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 179 by Senator Hill, the 6th. Bill to be entitled Act relating to contracts for public works bidding.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 193 by Senator Cowser, the 46th. Bill to be entitled Act Title 19, Enforcement Duty Support.
Juvenile Justice.
Senate Bill 194 by Senator Mullis, 53rd. A bill to be entitled Act relating to the Powers, Duties, Department of Natural Resources.
Natural Resources and Environment.
Senate Bill 195 by Senator Huffsteller, 52nd. Bill to be entitled Act relating to student health, elementary and secondary education.
Education.
Senate Bill 209 by Senator Wilkinson, the 50th. Bill to be entitled Amendment Title 10 relating to electronic transactions.
Agriculture and Consumer Affairs.
Senate Bill 218 by Senator Gooch, 51st. Bill to be entitled Amendment Title 32 relating to dimensions, weight of vehicles, and loads.
Transportation.
Through the first reader.
Second reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
Okay, Ryan.
HB 522 by Representative Rutledge of the 109th, the bill to amend an act creating the Henry County Water and Sewer Authority. HB 523 by Representative Clark of the 98th, the bill relating to general provisions pertaining to torts. HB 524 by Representative Brockway of the 102nd, a bill relating to adoption records and issuance of new birth certificate following adoption, legitimation, and paternity determination. HB 536 by Representative Sims of the 169th, the bill relating to receipt and disbursement of funds for county law libraries by counties having a population of 950,000 or more. HB 537 by Representative Sims of the 169th, the bill relating to election of local Board of Education members, persons ineligible to be members or superintendent, ineligibility for local boards of education, and ineligibility of other elective offices. HB 538 by Representative Sims of the 169th, the bill relating to composition of county boards of health. HB 539 by Representative Sims of the 169th, the bill relating to definitions relative to campus police officers. HB 540 by Representative Sims of the 169th, a bill to repeal an act to provide all counties of 500,000 or more population that the Board of Education in such counties shall recompute the pension paid to those teachers and employees who retired as a matter of right prior to April 1st, 1955. HB 541 by Representative Jones of the 47th, a bill to amend an act providing a homestead exemption from Fulton County ad valorem taxes. H.R. 551 by Representative Dawkins Hagler of the 91st, resolution creating the House Study Committee for Preservation of Sapelo Island. H.R. 552 by Representative Chandler of the 105th, a resolution requesting the implementation of a comprehensive school counseling programs for Georgia students. H.R. 603 by Representative Dempsey of the 13th, a resolution directing the Department of Community Health to collect and report certain data relating to bariatric surgical procedures. Senate Bill 122 by Senator Hill of the 6th, a bill relating to issuance, expiration, and renewal of driver's licenses. Senate Bill 136 by Senator Miller of the 49th, a bill relating to game and fish and registration, operation, and sale of watercraft. Senate Bill 201 by Senator Gooch of the 51st, a bill related to provide homestead exemption from White County School ad valorem taxes for educational purposes through second readers.
Reports of standing committees. The clerk will read.
Representative Cooper of the 43rd, Chairman Committee on Health and Human Services, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Health and Human Services had in consideration following bills and resolutions of the House. Instructing me report same by the House following recommendation. House Bill 511 do pass by substitute. House Resolution 603 do pass. House Bill 513 do pass. Respect submitted. Representative Cooper, Chair. Representative Weldon, 3rd District, Chairman Committee on Juvenile Justice, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Juvenile Justice had in consideration following bill. House instructing me report same by the House following recommendation. House Bill 236 do pass by committee substitute. Respect submitted. Representative Weldon, Chairman. Representative Carter, 175th Chairman, Committee on Governmental Affairs, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Governmental Affairs had in consideration the following bill and resolution of the House. Instructing me report the same back to House following recommendation. House Bill 203 do pass. House Resolution 410 do pass. Respectively submitted. Representative Carter, Chair. Representative Powell, 32nd District, Chairman, Committee on Public Safety, Homeland Security, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Public Safety, Homeland Security has had in consideration following bill. The House instructing report same back to House following recommendation. House Bill 512 do pass by committee substitute. Submitted. Representative Powell, Chair. Representative Maxwell, 17th, Chairman, Committee on Regulated Industry, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Regulated Industries has had in consideration the following bills. The House instructing me report same back to House following recommendations. House Bill 301 do pass. House Bill 517 do pass by substitute. Respectively submitted. Representative Maxwell, Chair. Representative Sims, 169th, Chairman, Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination has had in consideration the following bills of the House. Instructing me to report same back to the House following recommendation. House Bill 505, 508 do pass. Respectively submitted. Representative Sims, Chair, through the local calendar, through the committee reports. Local calendar or something.
All right, we're about to go on to the local calendar. House will come to order. This House will be in order. We're about to take up legislative measures. Third reading and passage of uncontested local bills. If there's no objection, we will vote on the local calendar as a whole with a recorded vote. Hearing none, it is so ordered. The clerk will read the local calendar.
House Bill 505, Representative Powell, 32nd, Madison County. House Bill 508, Representative Black, 174th, Charleston County. The above foregoing local bills have been before the House Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination. Committee recommends the same do pass. Bills being read today for the third time.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on the local calendar? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bills? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall these bills now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bills on the local calendar will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of the bills on the local calendar, the ayes are 162, the nays are 0. These bills, having received the requisite constitutional majority, are therefore passed. I hope you will help me welcome back a former member of this body, the former chairman of the Science and Technology Committee and the former representative from Lumpkin County, former Representative Amos Amerson. House will be in order. We're about to go on to morning orders. This House will come to order. Got a lot of traffic going on. A lot of conversations that need to stop or be taken outside the chamber. The chair is going to insist that members, while in the chamber, give attention and respect to members in the well on morning orders. We have a number of morning orders this morning, so I'm going to ask you to remain seated and attentive. The chair recognizes Is Representative Buddy Harden on the floor? Representative Harden. Okay. Chair recognizes Representative Kelly for a morning order. Representative Trey Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, I'm glad to come before you today and recognize a group of students, parents, and teachers from Lundy Christian Academy in Cedartown, Georgia. Lundy Christian is a private Christian-based school in Cedartown where students are offered not only the opportunity to get a quality education, but doing that with a Christian influence. These students start their day off much like we do ours here, with a morning devotion, and each students are required to remember weekly memory verses. This group is important to me not only for the mission of the school, but because my brother Matt attends there as well. So I'm glad to have y'all here, and if y'all please rise so that we can recognize you this morning.
Chair recognizes Chairman Pruitt for a morning order. Chairman Jimmy Pruitt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to everyone. This morning we have our group from a Farm to School program who have participated in the 5 million meal plan that they hope to serve this year using locally grown products, and today they're with us in the galleries, and I want to wish them a very wonderful day here at the Capitol, and join me and Superintendent John Barge and Commissioner Gary Black and welcome him to our state capitol. If you can stand, please. I think they didn't make it.
Chair recognizes Representative Diefenbaugh for a morning order.
Chairman, thank you very much for allowing me to make a special introduction to the law enforcement. Mainly, we have a large contingency of sheriffs in the gallery, and we'd like to welcome them, and if they would please stand and be recognized, as well as any other law enforcement. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Rice, Chairman Tom Rice for a morning order.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you'll all listen up for a second, I'd really appreciate it. I don't come down here and do many of these recognitions from the well, but I wanted specifically for you to understand why I'm doing this today. I've got a group here from the Jewish war veterans of Post 112. And this is a group of guys that do more than you would ever think. This is a group of guys that basically has been around since 1934, not all of them, but the Post was formed in 1934. And basically, these are the guys that go and visit with our veterans who are in the VA hospital in Milledgeville, in other VA hospitals. These are the guys that raise funds for the Wounded Warriors Project. These are the guys that might stand in the rain and honor, as an honor guard, their members who are going home. They've been doing this for decades. They've put on social events for these various veterans groups. They do a wonderful work, and they're often unseen and unknown. Now, one of the guys up there is a personal friend of mine. His name is George Jordan. George was with Patton's Third Army at the Battle of Bastogne. And he's still with us today, live and lively. And he joins this group up there, upstairs, and I'm going to present this resolution to him at lunchtime. I'd like you to all stand and honor Post 112, Jewish war veterans.
Crazy.
Right here. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Chairman Dempsey, Chairman Reinders, and Representative Waits for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning. It is our privilege to stand here today and welcome the National Federation of the Blind, the Georgia chapter, here today to our Capitol, led by their President Scott. President Scott. Warm welcome to each and every one of you that are there, and please know that your concerns are our concerns. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Chairman Stevens for a morning order. Chairman Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You'll notice on each of your desks you have something from your food bank and your local food banks. Today is the Georgia Food Bank Association Day. There's 7 regional food banks that distribute more than 90 million pounds in every single one of our counties. I hope you'll join them today. They're in the South Rotunda, and just go by and say hello. They're your constituents and probably your voting public. Would you help me welcome the food banks of Georgia here today? They're in the Rotunda somewhere. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Alicia Thomas Morgan for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, members, and to all of our guests who are here today. I am most excited to celebrate our 11th annual District 39 Day at the Capitol, and I have the most spectacular constituents who are here today. Would you please stand in the gallery or wave if you're standing from District 39? That's Austell and Mableton. We are in the house today. These are students from Floyd Middle School, Pebblebrook High School. We also have representatives from the South Cobb Youth Association, where one of our basketball teams became the state champions this Saturday, and so we're celebrating a lot. I want to thank you for being here today, and I'm most proud to be your state representative. Welcome to your Capitol.
House will be in order. House will be in order. The chair recognizes Representative Buddy Harden and the members of the House Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs for a morning order. Let's take the conversations outside, please. Members will be seated at their desk or leave the chamber.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and ladies and gentlemen of the House. You know, we all in our lives have those people we consider heroes, and we read about them in history books. But you know, I've got some personal heroes. My dad was one of mine, and it's just the people who have made this country what it is because of who they were and the fact that they loved their God, they love their country, and they love the people that they worked and served with. We want to recognize one such gentleman today, and he happens to be the father of our chairman, Tom McCall. But this resolution honoring James Dillard McCall, we put together because he just exemplified what made this country great, the kind of really man that serves the country. And I'd like to, if you will, let me read this resolution so you'll know a little bit more about Mr. McCall. Honoring the life and memory of Mr. James Dillard McCall and for other purposes. Whereas the state of Georgia mourns the loss of one of its most distinguished citizens with the passing of Mr. James Dillard Dick McCall on February 19, 2013. And whereas Mr. McCall was born on December 18, 1913 in Elbert County, a beloved son of the late Dolphus Allen and Sarah Ivy McCall, and whereas a man of deep and abiding faith, Mr. McCall was an active member of Elim United Methodist Church, and whereas Mr. McCall was united in love and marriage to the late Ms. Cat McCall, and the two were blessed with one remarkable son, Georgia State Representative Tom McCall, and 3 precious grandchildren, Al, Katie, and the late Bud Gaines McCall. And whereas he was a farmer and a founding member of the Elbert County Farm Bureau, a retired United States Postal Rural Letter Carrier after 30 years of service. In addition, he worked alongside his beloved wife, Kat, catering thousands of weddings and events for many years. And whereas he gave inspiration to many through his high ideals, morals, and deep concern for his fellow citizens, and the devotion, patience, and understanding he demonstrated to his family and friends were admired by others, and whereas he was a man of magnanimous strengths, with an unimpeachable reputation for integrity, intelligence, fairness, and kindness, and by the example he made of his life, he made this world a better place in which to live. And whereas a compassionate and generous man, Mr. James Dillard McCall will long be remembered for his love of family, friendship, and this loyal husband, father, grandfather, and friend will be missed by all who had the great fortune of knowing him. Now therefore be it resolved by the House of Representatives that the members of this body join in honoring the life and memory of Mr. James Dillard McCall and express their deepest and most sincere regret at his passing. Be it further resolved that the Clerk of the House of Representatives is authorized and directed to transmit an appropriate copy of this resolution to the family of Mr. James Dillard McCall.
I want to thank the members of the committee for such a respectful and kind gesture. House will remain in order. We are about to recognize some distinguished Georgians that are visiting with us today. The chair recognizes for an invite resolution Representative Jan Tankersley. Representative Tankersley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Fellow members of the House, on behalf of Representative Butch Parrish and Representative John Burns and myself, it is a great pleasure and with pride to tell you that we have with us today Georgia Southern University ROTC Ranger Challenge Team and the University President, Dr. Brooks Kill. And we do have some other distinguished guests that we're going to be talking about. At this time, I'd like to call on the clerk to read a portion of the resolution.
House Resolution 465 by Representative Tankersley at the 160th, Representative Parrish, 158th, and Representative Burns, 159th. A resolution commending the Georgia Southern University ROTC Program's 2013 Ranger Challenge Team on their victory at the Regional Ranger Challenge Competition and inviting the Rangers to be recognized by this House of Representatives at a date and time to be designated by the Speaker of this House.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. This Ranger Challenge team competed with 38 teams representing universities from the states of Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Florida, and Puerto Rico. It has been 12 years since a Ranger Challenge team brought home the victory to Georgia. I'm going to call on Dr. Brooks Kill for his comments and introduction of our other distinguished guest. Dr. Kill.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker Pro Tem, Representatives Tankersley, Burns, and Parrish, ladies and gentlemen of the House, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to be with you here today. Georgia Southern has a long and rich history in supporting the military and their families in their quest for continuing their education. We also have a strong tradition of building leaders and in preparing young men and young women to lead this country into our collective future. That is why Georgia Southern is so proud of our ROTC program and the positive impact it has on the young men and young women of our future. We are here today to recognize the Georgia Southern's 2013 Ranger Challenge team who emerged victorious in the 6th Brigade, a challenge that Representative Tankersley just mentioned. This challenge consists of 5 to 10-mile runs, at times carrying 5-gallon water cans, 2-hour aquatic sessions, rigorous strength training workouts, as well as soldiering skills, including land navigation, mountaineering, and grenade throwing. This Georgia Southern team will now travel to West Point, where they will compete and win the International Sandhurst competition, competing against 56 other ROTC programs, the U.S. Service Academies, and 12 international teams from such countries as Great Britain, Australia, Canada, Spain, Chile, and China. Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I'd like to now bring Lieutenant Colonel Gary Moray to the podium, who will introduce these outstanding young people.
Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House, it's an honor to be here today, but I didn't do the work. The ladies and gentlemen that I'm about to announce did all the heavy lifting. Cadet David Freeman from Augusta, Georgia. Cadet Charlie Witkowski from Alpharetta, Georgia. Cadet Julian Holmes, team captain from Fayetteville, Georgia. Cadet Thomas Bird from Wahiawa, Hawaii. Cadet David Witt from Kennesaw, Georgia. Cadet Dakota Wright from Fayetteville, North Carolina. And Cadet Allie Shortridge from Richmond Hill, Georgia, and led by Master Sergeant Tim Parks from Lansing, Michigan, my ace in the hole. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd just like you to know as you continue in this session in the allocation of our great state's precious resources, there is no shortage of courage, commitment, or patriotism in the great state of Georgia. Thank you.
Please join me in honoring this great team.
Chair recognizes the Minority Leader of the House for a morning order, Representative Abrams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to ask the Legislative Roundup team from this past year to come join me, Representative Carter and others, Representative Bentley. Those who did the Livestock Roundup this year, if you would come, Representative Smith. And Representative England, would you join me? And our coach, Representative McCall, if he's still on the floor. We won. This year, I had the very unusual experience of learning how to show a cow. And when you get there, when you do the livestock roundup, you are shown into a building and you basically meet with a young person who doesn't look old enough to tell you directions, who's supposed to show you how to manage a 1,000-pound heifer. The team standing with me, including our fearless leaders, Representative McCall and Representative England, the two chairmen helped us learn how to do it. And this year, for the second year, the House reigned supreme, and we were the grand champions of the legislative roundup. In addition to that, we had we showed first and second, with second place going to Representative Amy Carter, who did an amazing job with her steer. And I had the honor and privilege of being crowned the grand champion. Yeah, you should be shocked. And I was taught very ably by my guest today, John Reeser. Please stand, John, a 4-H member who was an extraordinary young man, who is so good at it that he has just accepted a full ride. Actually, stand right there. He's accepted a full ride to Black Hawk College, where he is going to study livestock judging. And will be doing an internship in Argentina, where there are lots and lots of cows. So please join me in welcoming John Reeser and his mother, Melissa Reeser, to the House. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Donahue to introduce the Doctor of the Day. Representative Donahue.
Doing great. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. It's my pleasure to introduce today the Doctor of the Day, James L. Smith. He was born in Atlanta and raised in Beaufort. He is board certified by the American Board of Emergency Medicine. Dr. Smith has received his undergraduate degree in bionetics from Georgia Tech. He earned his medical degree from the Medical College of Georgia and completed his emergency medicine residency at Harvard in Boston, Mass. Dr. Smith maintains membership in local and state medical society, including the Medical Association of Georgia and the American Medical Association. Dr. Smith is currently the Vice Chair of Emergency Medicine for Gwinnett Medical Center and the Vice President of the Gwinnett Forsyth Medical Society. Dr. Smith and his wife are raising their 4 children in beautiful, beautiful Hall County.
I appreciate this opportunity, and I thank all of y'all for what you do for patients and physicians in this state, and for making this a state that I wanted to come back and practice in, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
All right, we're going on to the rules calendar. We're going on to the rules calendar, and we have a long rules calendar today. We're going to have a lot of propositions to be considered by this House. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 451. House Bill 451.
House Bill 451 by Representative Smyrie of the 135th, a bill to be entitled Admin Code Section 15-6-2, relating to the number of Superior Court judges. Each judicial circuit shall provide for an additional judge, Chattahoochee Judicial Circuit, and the Oconee Judicial Circuit. Bill has been for the House Committee on Judiciary. Committee recommends the bill pass by committee substitute. Bill being read for the 3rd time.
Chair recognizes the Dean of the House, Chairman Smyrie, to present the bill. Chairman Smyrie.
Oh boy, I won't live down the statue. Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House, House Bill 451 is a bill that really does three things. The first, it increases the number of judges in the Chattahoochee Circuit from 6 to 7 judges in the Superior Court. And then on the Oconee Circuit, it increases from 2 judges to 3 judges. And then it changes the terms of office in the Griffin Circuit in the various counties that make up the Griffin Circuit. And then the last thing it does is change the format by which the Chief Judge of the Chattahoochee Judicial Circuit is elected. The judges decided in our Judicial Circuit, and I want to thank the Chairman of the Judiciary Committee and members of the Judiciary Committee for working with us and perfecting these bills, but it allows them to elect the judges by a majority vote rather than by the long continuous service of the judge. So the Chief Judge would now be elected by the majority members of the Chattahoochee Circuit. With that, Mr. Speaker, that's it. This is something that, of course, a lot of this depends on the budgetary process and how we go as it relates to these judgeships, but this is the recommendation from our Judicial Council, and I'd ask that everybody would vote yes for House Bill 451. If there are not any questions, Mr. Speaker, I'll yield the well.
You have no questions.
Thank you, sir.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. There is an amendment. There is an amendment offered by the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. Clerk will read the amendment.
Representative Willard of the 51st offers the following amendment. Amend the House Committee on Judiciary Substitute, House Bill 451. This amendment is printed in your calendar books with the bill, upper right-hand corner, AM 292154.
Is there any objection to adopting the Willard Amendment? Hearing none, the amendment is adopted. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute as amended? The chair hears none. The committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 451 will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 451, the ayes are 170, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. House Bill 287 has been on calendars and has been postponed. The clerk will today read the caption to House Bill 287.
House Bill 287 by Representative Hatchett of the 150th, a bill to be entitled Act to reassign the Division of Archives and History, Office of Secretary of State, and transfer governance thereof to the Board of Regents, University System of Georgia. This bill having been for the House Committee on Governmental Affairs, the committee recommends the bill do pass by way of a committee substitute. The bill is being read today for its third time.
Chair recognizes the governor's floor leader, Representative Hatchett, to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, today I bring you House Bill 287. This bill reassigns the Division of Archives and History from the Office of the Secretary of State to the Board of Regents of the University System of Georgia. In these tough economic times and steep budgetary constraints, the Secretary of State, the Chancellor, and the Governor reached an agreement that this is a good move for the Division of Archives and History. An archive transition team has been put in place made up of various academia, librarians, and friends of the archives to ensure a smooth transition of the operations. Plans are to remain open to the public for the same number of hours as presently done, and hopes are to extend hours through use of students in work-study programs and others at Clayton State University. Plans are for the archives to remain in the facility constructed for its use in 2003 that is adjacent to Clayton State University. Mr. Speaker, I'll yield for any questions and ask for your favorable consideration.
You don't appear to have any questions.
Thank you. I yield the will.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on House Bill 287? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 287 will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 287. The ayes are 170, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. What purpose does Chairman J. Powell rise?
Make a motion.
State your motion.
I move that House Bill 382 be sent back to the Committee on Judiciary.
Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 382 by Representative Powell, the 171st bill being entitled Amendment Title 51 relating to general provisions for torts.
On the motion of the gentleman that House Bill 382 be recommitted to the Judiciary Committee, is there objection? The chair hears none, and it is so ordered. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 393. House Bill 393.
House Bill 393 by Representative Hamilton, 24th, a bill to be entitled Amendment Title 34 relating to the Georgia Workforce Investment Board, provide for powers and duties of the Georgia Workforce Investment Board. Bill having been for the House Committee on Industry and Labor, the committee recommends the bill passed by committee substitute. Bill is being read today for its third time.
Chair recognizes the chairman of the Industry and Labor Committee, Chairman Hamilton, to present the bill. Chairman Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring before you House Bill 393. This is a bill that was brought to me by the Governor's Office of Workforce Development. Let me give you a little historical perspective. In 1998, the Workforce Investment Act was created, and through that process, it originally started with DHR, then it got moved to Department of Labor, and then last year we moved the Workforce Development Group over to the Governor's Office. And what this does is we receive today approximately $70 million or $73 million this last year in federal funds, and we receive these funds each year. The expressed intent of this is to aid in the development of a workforce and to aid people in the military, to aid people that are on unemployment, to try to offer training and other services to get these people back to work. Presently, Georgia has 20 such local workforce investment areas around the state. And these areas are responsible for distributing this approximately $70 million. What's called a monitor, not an audit, but a monitor was done by a major consulting firm this last year. And what was determined was that there was areas around the state that the policies and the procedures in various areas in certain of those local boards, really we had concerns as to whether they were following federal guidelines. And as we tried to approach those areas, some were very receptive to our guidance, others were not very receptive, and when we were told there was no state law to give us jurisdiction. So we're following what Texas did back in 2009 and what Florida started in 2011. And what 393 does is it enumerates the powers and duties of the Workforce Investment Board. That's the state board. And under the bill, Article 1 deals strictly with the state board. We're then making changes in that. Then we also created Article 2. Article 2 then is the creation of the local workforce investment areas and what the makeup of the respective boards are in those respective areas, what the parameters are of their rules, and a whole variety of things that allows service policies for those local workforce areas. It also sets some sanctions in case that they do not follow those rulings. Very importantly, we're setting a cap on what's called supportive services as a percentage of total allotment provided to each one of these local areas. What we found was that in certain areas, we were spending a very high, or what was determined a very high dollar on a very few people in this area. And so what we want is the ability to, we think that the less money per applicant we spend or recipient, what that means is we will be able to serve a much greater population. And so the intent of this is to allow us to serve a much greater population. Let me give you an example. This last year, out of this monitor, what we found was if you take the entire unemployment roll in the state of Georgia, the entire roll, only 6.4% of the people on that entire roll receive financial benefits from this $70 million. And so we found that in some cases money was just going to areas that were probably not the most appropriate, or in fact it just wasn't a very good economy of scale. So under federal law, it's recommended, for example, that we use a workforce area of approximately 500,000 population or more. Unfortunately, in Georgia, as an example, 13 of the 20 areas have a population of less than 500,000. So what happens is our local overhead becomes very much to the greater side of what it needs to be if we were serving a larger population. It sets up the process to come up with the local elected officials, the chief local elected officials, and so on and so forth. It finally then puts in a ethics provision or a conflict of interest provision that will give us the ability to establish who should and should not be on those boards based on a ethical requirement, and it also provides a mechanism to remove board members and others if they are in non-compliance or with cause. And then the final thing I just want to mention is that we put in an expenditure clause that any non-budgeted item of greater than $5,000 has to come back to the workforce board for approval. We found some very large dollar amounts that were unbudgeted and unapproved. And that's basically what the bill does. I'll be happy to answer any questions of anybody that has any, Mr. Speaker.
You have a question if you care to yield.
Sure, be happy to.
Chair recognizes Chairman Rogers to your right for a question.
Gentleman, yield.
Certainly, to my friend from Hall County.
I know you did a good job reading the statement, but on lines 273 through 279. Can you explain the terminology there, please?
273.
Yeah.
What would you like for me to do? To read it?
No, I've already read it. Just explain what the code, what you're doing in this code section.
What we're saying is that they will not be personally liable for a claim unless the act or the claim is because of omission that basically causes the claim damage, loss, or obligation on that member. So we just want to hold the members accountable that they need to use good judgment in the exercise of their position.
Will you further yield?
Sure, certainly.
It says it shall not be held personally liable for a claim.
Right, but it says unless the act or omission that causes the claim damage, loss, or repayment obligation constitutes on the part of the board members or former board members, number one, official misconduct, two, willful disregard of the requirements of this chapter, or gross negligence.
Okay. Will you further yield for another question?
Certainly.
On lines 302, where you mentioned the non-budgeted purchase or expenditure over $5,000.
Correct.
Under $4,999, what item would that be? What would be a non-budgeted item?
Well, I think some examples that we might want to look at is the purchase of a car, or the purchase of a truck, or the purchase of a vehicle to transport people.
Okay, will you further yield?
Certainly.
On lines 338.
I'm sorry,
338.
Okay. Sure.
Will you explain that to me, please, about conflicts of interest, potential
Sure.
conflicts of interest?
This is just saying that any board members that are presently serving, if they have a potential conflict or a contract with the respective board, that they need to either leave the board or do away with that conflict prior to the next certification. And the certification is set by the governor, and it's on a 2-year process. Based on the current situation, we would expect that that's probably no later than December of 2013. So basically, if a person is in conflict today, they need to satisfy that conflict by either leaving or getting out of the contractual agreement or relationship that they currently have if they wish to continue to serve on the board.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
You don't appear to have any other questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd ask for your favorable consideration for House Bill 393. Thank you very much.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Chair recognizes the Minority Caucus Whip, Representative Hughley, to speak to the bill. Representative Hughley.
Thank you. Calling the party. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House. We all know that this is the governor's bill and it's going to pass, but I do want to point out a couple of things for your consideration. The local workforce investment boards are made up with the majority of private sector members. So we're asking small business people to give them their time to work on these local workforce investment boards. And the whole idea of having the local boards is so that the decisions can be made on the local level. And workforce investment boards spend a lot of time trying to help people that have been dislocated from their jobs, trying to provide training for young people and training for people that have barriers to employment. Oversight is something that I always think that we should do, but in this particular case, given the governor authority to remove members of the board without sufficient articulation in the bill of what that cause can be, is problematic, because you're going to create a situation where local workforce investment boards are going to have difficulty recruiting private sector volunteers to go on the board, knowing that the governor can decide at some point they've done something that the governor doesn't like, and they're going to be removed, and it will be a bad reflection upon them and on their business. And so that's something that we need to take a look at. In terms of the supportive payments, you're going to see variations in supportive payments based on where people are. A local workforce investment board may decide that in order to remove a barrier to employment for one person, they need to do more than for somebody else. Supportive payments can include anything from providing child care so people can go to training and can get back to work. And in one case, I remember several years ago up in North Georgia, they had a program where they were helping people to secure cars because the places for employment was so far away from where people lived. So I think we do need to have some oversight for any boards or commissions that we have, but when we are asking private sector volunteers to participate, we need to be very careful about this whole notion that they can be removed for some unknown cause, such that even though this particular governor, there's not a problem, but we don't know who's going to be governor in 4 years or in 8 years or somewhere down the line. And all it will take is for one private sector person to be accused and removed from a board, and it could be some political situation that we'll have a problem. And I just want to point out that as a red flag in this bill, and I urge your consideration as we move forward. Thank you. I'll take questions if there are any, or I'll yield the well.
You have no questions.
Thank you.
Lady has yielded the well. No one else had signed up to speak on the bill. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on House Bill 393? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines.
Bill.
Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 393. The ayes are 119, the nays are 50. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 359. House Bill 359.
House Bill 359 by Representative Nimmer of the 178th. The bill will be entitled Act Amendment Title 44, relating to disposition of unclaimed property, so as to require the Commissioner of Revenue to deposit certain funds within the state treasury. Bill having been for the House Committee on Ways and Means. The committee recommends this bill do pass. Bill is being read today for the third time.
Chair recognizes Representative Nimmer, the governor's floor leader, to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring before you for your consideration this morning House Bill 359. This bill gives the Department of Revenue's Commissioner the ability and the authority to deposit funds that are unclaimed into the general fund after the time period has went and expired, for people to redeem those funds. That is simply what the bill does, and Mr. Speaker, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to yield. If none, I yield the well.
You have a question, do you yield?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Representative Bruce to your right for a question.
Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Just for clarification, where are those funds deposited now?
They are deposited into the Department of Revenue's checking account, so to speak, but the variation of funds are making it hard for them to streamline their management of how they pay out for their personal services and different things running their department. So those funds would then be put into the general fund and an appropriation will be made back to them.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
No further questions.
Thank you. I'd ask for your favorable consideration.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 359 will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 359. The ayes are 167, the nays are 0. This bill having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 366. House Bill 366.
House Bill 366 by Representative Hitchens, 161st, a bill of entitled act to amend Title 35 relating to employment training of peace officers. Bill has been for the House Committee on Public Safety, Homeland Security. Committee recommends the bill to pass. The bill is being read today for its third time.
Chair recognizes Representative Hitchens to present the bill. Representative Hitchens.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and ladies and gentlemen of the House. I rise today in support of House Bill 366, which seeks to clarify and expand the duties of the Executive Director of the Peace Officers Standards and Training Council. As you all know, the Peace Officers Standards and Training Council are charged with the responsibility for training, testing, and disciplining law enforcement officers throughout the state. The first change has to do with discipline. 2 years ago, this body saw fit to change the manner in which the powers of the Executive Director to suspend the certification of a law enforcement officer in this state if he was indicted for a felony. Simply stated, this bill just changes the wording from peace officer to certified officer. What that does is there are two other classes of officers in this state that are covered by post, and that's communications officers and jail officers. So this would make the law effective on all three. If they're indicted for a felony, they can receive an emergency suspension from the Executive Director of the Peace Officers Standards Council until the matter is resolved. Number two involves testing. Before anybody can report to the Academy for his initial training under post rules, he must take an aptitude test. Previously, if you were unsuccessful in your first attempt to pass that test, there was a 6-month waiting period before you could reapply. By rule, the payment for taking the examination has now been transferred from the state to the applicant, and this would change it from 6 months to 30 days. If you're unsuccessful, you could come back in 30 days and retest. The third part of it has to do with training. And in your first year, when you attend the academy, you would not be required to get your 20 hours of in-service training. Previously, if you went to the academy before April of a calendar year, you would still have to do that 20 hours subsequent. And this also changed it in your last year. When you retire, you're not required to get your 20 hours of in-service training. And lastly, they've computerized the whole post-certification system now with regard to in-service training. And this would provide the Executive Director the ability to decertify those officers who fail to meet their 20 hours in-service training or whatever it happens to be at the time that it occurs if they don't meet those qualifications by December 31st of the year. This last year, there were several thousand people who didn't meet those requirements. We've had several incidents around the state where there've been some use of deadly force. Part of the in-service training requirements are that every year you certify with your service revolver or pistol and attend a class in deadly force. You can imagine the repercussions if a law enforcement officer is involved in deadly force and he's not received that proper training. So I ask for your favorable consideration. I would entertain any questions, Mr. Speaker.
You have no questions.
I yield the will.
Gentleman has yielded the will. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the amendment? Clerk will read the amendment.
The amendment is modified structure approved by the Committee on Rules is printed in your calendar books with the bill. AM 350320 amends House Bill 366.
There is an amendment. Is there any objection to adopting the amendment, the Hitchens amendment? The chair hears none. The amendment is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 366 will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Members voted. Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 366. The ayes are 168, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 250. House Bill 250.
House Bill 250 by Representative Rice, the 95th. The bill being entitled Amendment Title 48, relating to local excise tax on the sale or use of energy, so provide for revision of certain provisions relating to the levy collection and administration of that excise tax. Bill amendment for the House Committee on Ways and Means. The committee recommends the bill to pass. This bill is being read today for its third time.
Chair recognizes Chairman Rice to present the bill. Chairman Rice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 250 is a result of House Bill 386, which was the jobs tax credit bill we passed last year. What it provided for last year was the opportunity for an excise tax on energy to be exercised by the local communities, local political subdivisions. Unfortunately, when that happened, there wasn't any means for them to go ahead and collect it based upon the relationship of the political subdivision, the energy provider, and the manufacturer that the tax would be levied on. All House Bill 250 really does is to put in place a process by which that transaction can take place in its smoothest, most efficient way. It's agreed to by the ACCG, the GMA, the energy providers, and the Manufacturing Association. Mr. Speaker, if there are any questions on the bill, I'll stand for them.
You have no questions.
I yield the will.
Gentleman has yielded the will. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 250 will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 250. The ayes are 170, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 304. House Bill 304.
House Bill 304, President McCall, 33rd, a bill to entitled Act amending Code Section 48-5, 48.2, relating to Freeport exemption, so as to clarify the applicability of an exemption to fertilizer production processes. The bill has been for the House Committee, Ways and Means. The committee recommends the bill do pass. The bill is being read today for the third time.
Chair recognizes the chairman of the Agriculture and Consumer Affairs Committee, Chairman McCall, to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, first thing you need to understand is 304 affects the state budget or revenues absolutely zero. All it's doing is clarifying in law what is and is not available for a Freeport exemption. There seems to be a void when it comes to understanding what fertilizer actually is with some of the tax assessors in some of the counties. The new language on line 19 and 20 talks about the activities. The underlying language on line 27 is already in law, so we're not adding aircraft engines. And then line 30 and 31 talks about blending of bulk fertilizer materials. The way agriculture is now, it is precision application with fertilizer. You do a soil test, you mix up a precision fertilizer with micronutrients, and even now trucks are equipped with GPS to use variable rate technology, putting out different amounts in different parts of the field. This precise analysis, after it's weighed and mixed, then becomes fertilizer. The part that some of these counties are wanting to tax, which is a raw product, and if you read Code Section 48, it talks about raw products. That is what makes the fertilizer. So all this is doing is clarifying what is and what is not fertilizer as it relates to Freeport exemption. Mr. Speaker, that's pretty much it, and if there's anybody got a question, I'll try to answer it, but I'd rather them just vote for the bill.
I think maybe they're going to help you out there. You have no questions. The gentleman has quickly fled the well. For what purpose does Chairman Burns rise?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to House Rule 133, I would like to ask to be excused from this vote on House Bill 304.
The gentleman has that right, and the Journal will so note that. What purpose does Representative Dickerson rise?
Pursuant to House Bill 133, I'd like to be excused from this vote.
The lady has that right, and the Journal will so reflect that. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 304 will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 304. The ayes are 165, the nays are 0. This bill having received The requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed. We are still taking up propositions, and I know most of the members wish to hear the presentations and the debate. So the House Chair is going to ask members to be at order. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 159. House Bill 159.
House Bill 159 by Representative Harold, the 106th, a bill to be entitled Act Amendment Title 48 relating to general provisions regarding ad valorem taxation of properties, provide that property tax bills shall not include any non-tax related fees or assessments. Bill amendment for the House Committee on Ways and Means. Committee recommends the bill to be passed by way of a committee substitute. This bill is being read today for its third time.
Chair recognizes Representative Harrell to present the bill. Representative Harrell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring before you today House Bill 159 that provides that taxes and only taxes should appear on our property tax bill. This is sound public policy that would prohibit the use of our ad valorem tax bills as a debt collection tool for tack-on fees. The provision would make it easier to qualify for one to purchase a home. It would reduce monthly mortgage payments for those that have the fees included in their escrows. It would reduce the likelihood of filing an erroneous income tax return, as the Georgia Society of CPAs tells us that quite often people claim these fees as tax deductions on their Schedule A itemized tax return when in fact they are not taxes paid. And most importantly, it would reduce the likelihood that your home would be subject to a lien for failure to pay a fee. Often with these fees included on your property tax bill, should a clerical error be made or that bill be short paid by a single dollar, our tax commissioners don't make any judgment on whether the taxpayer failed to pay taxes or fees, but move to file a FIFA, to file a lien against your home. I believe this legislature before my time has adopted sound public policy in this state that says that property rights are of paramount importance. In fact, our Constitution, our Georgia Constitution, says the same. And we demonstrated that when we are systematically eliminating property taxes in the state of Georgia. That is underway today. House Bill 159 is a continuation of that sound public policy that says that your home is one of the most important aspects of what makes America a great nation. And I believe that this bill solidifies that sound public policy. Now, I know many of you have been contacted by local officials in your home districts and have been lobbied heavily today by two fantastic associations, the Association of County Commissioners and Georgia Municipal Association. Many of you know that today I'm a garbage man. What you may not know is I'm a former city planning and zoning commissioner. I'm a former city council member. I'm a former mayor. And for 3.5 years, I served as a board member on the Department of Community Affairs, traveling this entire state, working with cities and counties in all size, rural and urban, on how to finance and how to build their communities. I'm not unaware of the challenges our cities and counties face. And I appreciate the work that they do each and every day. The concerns that I have heard raised, primarily increased costs or delinquency, in most cases can be mitigated. And this bill, House Bill 159, permits local governments, it does not prohibit them from using any number of additional billing mechanisms, including, if they so choose, to put a second invoice in the same envelope when they bill these non-tax fees. I have been gratified to earn the support on this measure of citizens around this state, including local officials both in the city and the county level. Americans for Prosperity, representing 55,000 Georgians, is a supporter. The Real Estate Trade Group is a supporter. The National Federation of Independent Business is a supporter. This bill, quite frankly, when you go home, is about preserving your citizens that you represent, in most cases, the largest investment they've ever made for themselves and their family, and that is their home, free and clear of unnecessary government encumbrances. So I ask for you to give careful consideration to this measure. I know it's a difficult issue for many of you. I've worked for 3 years to get to this point on this very issue, and I appreciate the support that I've had from many of you, the constructive criticism. We've attempted to find a number of alternative measures, but I stand before you today believing that our property tax bill should be free and clear of non-tax fees. I believe it's sound public policy. I'd ask for your support. Mr. Speaker, I will yield for questions.
You have a number of questions. Do you yield?
Yes, sir, I do.
Chair recognizes Chairman Knight to your right for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Representative, isn't it true that under federal tax code and thus under Georgia tax code that non-tax fees, or should I just say fees for service, are non-deductible?
Chairman Knight, you're correct. In most cases, these fees are not a tax deduction for the homeowner. In some cases, in the business side, it may be, but in most cases, they are not a deductible item. So should that homeowner claim a fee as an itemized deduction, they have, in effect, filed an erroneous income tax return.
Does the gentleman further yield?
Yes, sir, I do.
And to my point, that in some cases, some of these fees, because they're in certain situations of escrow, some of these fees are wrapped up and are thus lumped into real estate taxes on our 1098 mortgage statements that we get at the end of the year. And furthermore, isn't it true that some of the folks are relying on that figure to put that real estate tax as the deductible portion, and it includes fees such as garbage and other non-deductible fees in there?
I believe that's absolutely correct. We've seen evidence of these 1098 forms that include the gross amount of everything that appears on that tax bill, including those fees, those non-deductible and non-tax fees in that gross amount. So in many cases, this homeowner is filing this erroneous return, not intentionally, absent good information. And the result is, and this is something that I didn't start out as part of my mission for this particular legislation, but discovered over time, as a result of those filings and those claims of deductibility for non-deductible fees, the state of Georgia has a significant amount of underreported income as a result. So the state actually is losing revenue through this practice as well. I believe in the millions of dollars a year today. Those are funds that this body could appropriate to other causes in our state. And let me make out the point too, if I could at this moment. A significant minority of cities and counties use this billing scheme today. Well over 75% of counties do not bill this way today. It is a minority, but that number is growing each year. So these issues you've illuminated will only compound in the future.
Thank you, Representative.
You have other questions? Do you wish to continue yielding?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Kaiser to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does my friend and seatmate in the well yield?
Yes, ma'am, I will.
Representative, can you just help me? I'm sort of trying to digest all of the information. I understand the intent, particularly where you have the sale of a FIFA to a third party, which I absolutely don't support. But what happens to so now will it just be contracted out? If the local municipality is responsible for those sanitation services, do they not still have to collect the garbage whether or not the bill's paid? And how is that then made up? And I guess my other concern is, I know a lot of people have pay through escrow. And I understand the issue with the 1098 as well, but what happens, so you have a separate sanitation bill and you're delinquent over and over and over. My concern is now you have a huge amount of delinquent fees. So if you don't mind speaking to that.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate the question. Again, as I mentioned before, as a former local official and being very respective of the local control. I've tried to say as little as possible in this legislation so that there would be as few mandates or dictates to the lowest local level as possible. So House Bill 159 simply says it cannot appear on the same piece of paper. Beyond that, how they bill it would be left entirely to the local level. I think that cost increases or delinquencies, there are a number of other ways that those could be handled. In some cities or counties, not all, they could potentially put these on utility bills. Again, I don't mandate that. In some cities or counties, they may choose to do a second invoice in the same envelope. It's permissive, not mandated. In some cities and counties, perhaps they'll bill totally separately, maybe even a different time of year. One tax commissioner in this state has indicated to me that he bills all the fees 6 months opposite of all his taxes, and because both billings are coming from a tax commissioner, he receives about the same payment rate. There's very little difference, taxes and fees. But again, my legislation does not mandate to any local government how they would implement their program. Quite frankly, I do not believe the increased cost or delinquency would cause any program in place at the local government today to fail. I don't believe it would prevent any of the local governments from implementing new programs that benefit their citizens. And many of these programs are very, very beneficial.
Does the gentleman further yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know how many other states handle the fees separate in this manner?
As I started looking at other states, I didn't get to the number that bill separately, but there are a number of states that do bill the same way that Georgia or some cities and counties in Georgia do today, and include non-tax fees on their bill. For example, here's just a flavor of what the future of Georgia may hold: mosquito control fees, state welfare fees, 4-H and extension service fees appear on tax bills, rent stabilization fees, fire ant assessments, indigent care, a landscape fee. One town in Illinois has a sanitarium fee. I did not say sanitation. I said sanitarium fee on the tax bill. Literally dozens and dozens of non-tax fees are being added to citizens' property tax bills across this nation. And I think both of these associations that I have great respect for, GMA and ACCG, have suggested that in the future that more cities and more counties will use this billing mechanism and more fees will be added.
You have other questions. Do you continue to yield?
I'll yield for one more, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Chairman Burns to your right for a question.
Gentleman, yield.
Yes, sir, I certainly will.
Appreciate your work on this bill, and I know you've worked on it and you made some changes, and it's you've got a good point you're trying to make. My question lies in the point that you may be correct as the number of counties and cities that are in the minority, but as we struggle with revenue in this state, on the state level and the local level, now when we institute and have to program another set of programming and employees to create another set of billing to accommodate it when we take it off the tax commissioner's bill, that is clearly defined what the charge is for on the tax commissioner's bill, whether it be sanitation or fire. It's clearly defined there. It looks to me that we're going to stress local governments and the citizens of this state with an increased fee, and some of the counties that I represent that may be in the population range of 50 to 60,000, they're probably going to accrue another $50 to $60 or $70,000 worth of cost to make sure that they're able to get these bills out to their the ones that are utilizing these services. And it just looks like the timing is just not appropriate now to increase the cost for local government.
Well, I appreciate the gentleman's. I appreciate. Well, I would disagree, but I appreciate the gentleman's question. Talking about those local tax bills, this is a new and improved revised tax bill from one of the counties that has tried to clearly identify the fees. On this bill, the word tax appears 32 times. And this is a new, improved, revised with the fees in this little box. So what is the taxpayer to understand? I mean, the word tax is on this bill 32 times, and this is a new, improved bill. This is a tax bill where 45% of the total amount due is not taxes. They're fee, 45%. going back almost a decade, one of our tax commissioners looked at 30 random tax bills of elderly and low-income property taxpayers and found on those that 83% of the amount due was in fact not taxes. They were fees. So there may be cost, but whatever program the local government administers and whatever size the jurisdiction, you would think that program successfully implemented would be able to cover its billing cost. Every program in the private sector has billing costs. And so I think that whatever programs our governments offer, and there are many great programs, they should be able to cover their administrative costs without unduly risking our homes. Thank
Gentlemen,
you.
you have one more question.
Yes, sir.
Evidently, my tax commissioner is doing an excellent job because it's pretty clear on what the charges on our tax bills at home. So, and I would think there's some other folks around the state doing
I'm sure
a good
that's
job
true.
also. My last question is this: if we look at the collection rate when we bill folks for these services, the best information I can gather, and yours may differ, is that we only collect 60 to 70%. So the way I see that one is, if we don't collect it for the fee, the next year is going on the ad valorem tax bill to make up for that deficit, and all the taxpayers then are going, that cost is going to be spread across everyone instead of the people who utilize the service. And that appears to me just not being fair, and I appreciate your answers, and I'm certainly you'll agree with that statement too, but thank you for taking the questions.
I appreciate it, sir, and I certainly don't advocate that type of a solution. In my experience, I've been able to implement similar programs without embedding the cost in the property tax millage rate, but again, my bill is permissive, so it would not mandate that a local government do either. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure there are many other questions. This
There are.
is a fairly well-vetted issue. I would ask for your favorable consideration and yield the well. Thank you.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Chair recognizes Representative Henson to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and to my colleagues in the House. I come here to oppose House Bill 159 today. This is a complex bill, and it is a mandate because it says shall, and we must take that into account. It does not allow any of our counties or cities to not follow this. Now, for many of them, they have been using the property tax bills in order to levy fees and other assessments for services. Understand, these are services that they're providing to everyone within their jurisdiction, services such as stormwater. It's necessary. Street lights, that's important and necessary. Speed bumps and fire services. Now, at this time, House Bill 159, if we pass it, will prohibit the counties and cities from placing any fees or assessments on the property tax bill, as you hear. Our counties and cities, when they take a look at their tax digest for the year, and our home property values are fluctuating, but they also know they're getting X amount of dollars in order to provide fire service, in order to provide stormwater utility, or in some counties, such as DeKalb County, for garbage pickup. We know how many homes there are, how much we're collecting, the money's spread. If this bill was to go into effect, some people would pay their property taxes and just ignore this. So suddenly, what you're having is services that are being provided to all the people in the county and being paid for by some people, not all of them. So you're reducing the number of people that are going to be paying for these services. Again, services such as garbage, street lights, fire, essential services. He talked about the CPAs and the fact that people come in and say, this is how much I paid on my taxes. Well, if this isn't correct, us CPAs should be asking every single person that comes in, show me your bill, so he can extract the proper amount to be deducted every year when they file their taxes. These are notices that can also be sent out, and the counties and cities should be advising their constituents or their residents. They could send a separate piece, another piece of paper in with it and tell people what can and cannot be deducted very easily. And that way, we wouldn't have this issue with revenue. which as long as I've been here, I've never heard revenue bring up the fact that this is another way to generate extra money. It's suddenly like, okay, where's this coming from? Revenue's now looking at something. But revenue didn't drive this bill. Revenue didn't ask for this bill. You know, the other thing I'm really concerned with, again, we'll go back to the fact of not everyone paying for these services anymore. And this is a practical way of collecting these fees, by putting it on your property tax bill. And suddenly, we're changing a system. We're changing it drastically. And I know folks, counties or cities could put it into the same bill and so forth and so on, send it at a different time and everything else. But we haven't heard from the cities. We haven't heard from the counties. And we have large counties out there, which constitute a large population here. And we're not hearing from them that what the cost is going to be for them doing it. There is going to be an added cost. And at this time, I don't think any of our counties or cities can absorb any extra costs at all. And I'm concerned about no fiscal note at all. So what I'm doing is asking us here today to vote against this bill. If this is something that's necessary, something that our counties and cities really want, and I question that since both ACCG and the municipal corporation, and opposing this bill. Let's come back, let's redo the bill, let's give our counties and cities the option of doing this. But let's not say, you're going to do this and you're going to be starting it immediately. So please join me in voting against this bill today. Thank you.
You have questions if you care to yield. Lady does not yield. That is all of those who Chair recognizes Chairman Reinders to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll be brief. I wanted to just give you a little story of what happened last year in the county that I represent. I'm sensitive to the fact that we've got a collection rate issue with some, 60%, 70%, 50%, whatever the appropriate number is. And to try to rein that in, one county commission said, let's put this on the tax bills. This happened in Southwest Georgia. A group of citizens got together and said, no, for a variety of reasons. Number one, are we going to sell your home for a $26 garbage bill on the courthouse steps if you don't pay? Number two, as conservatives, if I own the duplex, are you going to give me the bill for service I didn't receive? When did we start paying for a service I didn't receive as a property? When you invited me into this county and said, come invest, build your apartments, build this, rent here. And if you were a renter, why would you ever pay your garbage bill? Because if you don't, the landlord's got to pay it for you. If your property's vacant for 2 months, county's not delivering a service, not picking anything up. But you know what? You get billed for 12 months. You're not, it's not a matter of the tenant's not paying it. They're guaranteed a 100% collection rate. I don't know if that's fair, and that's right. Anyway, bottom line is they ended up putting it on a referendum in front of the people. That was the agreement that was made. Tax commissioner refused to do it. Started off in court. This is a growing trend. Put it to a referendum to the people, and the people overwhelmingly, memory serves me correct, mid to high 70s, said no, don't put garbage fees on my ad valorem tax. That just happened in voting last summer in one county, and I felt like I wanted to share that with you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
you had questions. Okay. All right. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on House Bill 159? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. There is a minority report on House Bill 159, and the chair recognizes the minority leader of the House, Representative Abrams, to speak to the minority report. Under the rules of the House, she has 20 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank Representative Harrell for providing the 2013 Lawyer Full Employment Act. Unlike Representative Harrell, I have not served as a mayor or a city council person, but I have served as a lawyer to cities. And in my capacity as a lawyer in the city of Atlanta, one of my jobs was to manage a team of lawyers that did nothing but go after citizens that didn't pay their fees. We did so in fairly dramatic fashion, with due diligence and with outside help. We hired a number of folks to help us get the money we were owed because we couldn't provide the services without it. And under the terms of this bill, we'll be adding 53 counties to the list of counties that could be paying lawyers across the state to collect their fees. These really small counties include Athens-Clarke County, Bullock County, Chatham County, Hall County, Jackson County, Meriwether County, Spalding County. While these may be counties in the minority in terms of number, if you add together the cities and counties that use this methodology for assessing fees, you would have the majority of the population, or a very strong preponderance of the population of the state of Georgia. I want to use my time in the minority report to respond to some of the issues raised about this bill. Number one, the notion that this is an unnecessary government encumbrance, I think, is belied by what these fees are used for. Despite the colorful list of fees that are assessed in other states, Georgia has actually had a fairly narrow approach. These are fees directly related to the use of property. We use it for garbage fees, for fire fees, for street lights, only for things directly related to the use of the property. We have no sanitarium fees. We have no issues with, I believe he mentioned possibly doing a welfare fee. We don't, I'll stay away from that one. Suffice it to say, Georgia has severely limited in the true conservative fashion what we use these fees for. But what we have done is say to taxpayers, we will not make you pay for your bad actor. Yesterday I spoke to you about game theory, but today I'm going to talk to you about the free rider. The free rider is the person who doesn't pay their way knowing that you will do it for them. The free rider is the person who ignores that bill that comes in a separate envelope thinking, well, if I don't pay it, what are they going to do? Are they going to take me to small claims court? Are they going to call me and hound me to death? Well, I'll just turn off my phone. The free rider is the person who is in that apartment building or in that house next to you who says, because I won't pay my bill, I will let you pay your share and my share. What this provision allows is nothing more complex than allowing cities and counties to use something they've got to do anyway to reduce cost, increase efficiency, and serve the population of the state and of the county that they represent. Now, I think Representative Harrell raises some very viable concerns, and so does Representative Knight. However, these are problems that are best solved by actually addressing the problem. The issue of taxpayers claiming unnecessarily or erroneously making claims on their tax returns can be solved by telling them very clearly these cannot be claimed. There are some minor escrow issues, but those issues are so minute as to not warrant destroying this entire system. It would be the moral equivalent of having bad plumbing and burning down your house to solve it. We have a system in place that has not only worked for several counties for several years, it is a system that has allowed us to have efficiency, regulatory oversight without intruding upon true property rights. I believe that more than anything, the issues that are raised should be solved in discrete, specific, and incremental manner, because otherwise we run the risk of creating more problems for our taxpayers. Because the challenge you have in those 53 counties is the day this goes away and they start getting those bills and they stop paying those bills, The first time your city council member has to answer the question of why am I being sued by my city? Or why is the county taking me to court for not paying a $25 or $50 or $150 bill? The answer is going to be because you voted for it. Mr. Speaker, if there are no questions, I yield the well.
You do have questions if you care to yield.
Certainly.
Chair recognizes Representative Pack to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentlelady yield?
Absolutely.
Isn't it true that if you don't pay the trash fees, that your property could be liened, and thus, when you try to sell that property, where it's foreclosed upon for whatever reason, that money is in fact collected by the local jurisdiction?
That is true, but that can be solved by changing the provisions for what a lien can be used for. The problem is not in the methodology of billing, the problem is in the collection side. And so if Mr. Harrell, or if you would like to offer a bill that would solve for the issue of five-phase not being allowed for irregular liens, then I think that's an absolutely smart provision to make. But instead of solving the lien problem, what we're doing is removing the billing opportunity. You never get to the lien if you don't know that you have the property that you owe the bill, but more importantly, when the local government tries to collect on those dollars owed, you're forcing them to go through a much more arduous process in order to do so. And so I would say that certainly we can solve that problem, but this bill does not solve the problem that you're raising.
Do you further yield?
I do.
Chair recognizes the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Chairman Willard, to your right for a question.
Will the gentlelady yield, please?
Absolutely.
Madam, isn't it true that to have the ability to have the fees we're talking about, light fees, garbage fees, whatever it may be, has to be approved as having the same legislative standing as ad valorem taxes to be actually considered as a type of ad valorem tax where you can go against the property?
Absolutely. So to the chairman's point, you should not be able to lien against someone for failure to pay a street light bill. What's happening is that there is, and certainly we should address the concerns of whether we have tax assessors who are inappropriately placing liens, but the solution is not this bill. The solution is to actually hold those tax assessors accountable for the five-phase the issue, for the notice provisions that should be met, but it is not to remove the ability of cities and counties to actually collect fees for services provided.
Will the gentlelady further yield?
Yes.
You mentioned you did this work with the City of Atlanta. Does the City of Atlanta have all of their fees that were being collected by you approved as far as legislatively having the same standing as ad valorem taxes?
At the time I was there, we were focused on a specific set of fees, but I do believe that all of the fees that we collect for are ones that are legislatively approved.
Thank you.
Do you continue to yield?
Certainly, sir.
Chair recognizes Chairman Knight to your right for a question.
Does my friend yield?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman.
I want to go back to the argument of what the chairman just mentioned as far as like electricity fees and services. Isn't it not true that most of these are in what we call enterprise funds within our local governments?
They can be, but they are not always.
But in most cases, they are or can be, as you said. Isn't it true that in an enterprise fund, those are set up specifically for the purpose of an exchange element? In other words, a service for a fee.
Yes.
So from that argument, isn't it not true that saying that we're going to pass along those type of fees through property taxes to the rest of us is probably breaking all kind of accounting, governmental auditing standards, those things that go against the very nature of an enterprise fund? Isn't that true?
It is. Here's how I would phrase it. If what was being done was that there was lack of transparency, and in the assessed value of a property, there was wrapped into it fees without any clear delineation of the cost of the fees and the source of the fees, then you would be correct. However, that's not what's happening here. On these tax bills, there is a clear delineation of every fee assessed. There is no confusion between what is a fee for a service and what is the actual ad valorem tax that's being assessed against the value of the property. What's happening is that the confusion has happened on the part of possibly the tax assessor and certainly some other providers, but the the way to solve the problem is to actually talk to those who are misapplying those fees. The solution is not to remove a billing mechanism that is essential to the operation of a number of counties and cities that we represent in this body.
You have no further questions.
And Mr. Speaker, thank you, and I yield the well.
Lady has yielded the well. What purpose does the Majority Caucus whip rise?
Mr. Speaker, I have spoken with the author, and he wishes to work some more on this very important bill during the off-season, and therefore we would move to table at this time.
The Majority Caucus whip has moved to put House Bill 159 on the table. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it is on the table. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 164. House Bill 164.
House Bill 164, Representative Atwood, 179th. Bill to be entitled Act amending Code Section 48A3 relating to exemptions from sales and use tax to eliminate the sunset from the exemption regarding the sale or use of engines, parts, equipment, or the tangible personal property used in the maintenance or repair of certain aircraft. Bill has been before the House Committee on Ways and Means. The committee recommends the bill to pass by way of a committee substitute. The bill is being read today for the third time.
Chair recognizes Representative Atwood to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I ask for your favorable consideration for House Bill 164. Currently, Georgia offers an exemption of sales tax on materials used for maintenance of aircraft that are repaired or maintained within the state but registered outside the state. And this bill simply does one thing. It extends the exemption until June 30th, 2015. It's very narrowly tailored in both scope and size. The exemption helps Georgia businesses compete with comparable businesses in other states that have allowed the same exemption for years. And this is not a tax break for companies that repair aircraft, because those companies pass the sales tax through to their customers. It's about helping Georgia companies with pricing offered by out-of-state companies and to be able to compete with them. An important consideration, because planes, as you see by this one, are by definition mobile. That happens to be my old airplane. That's the mighty OV-10 Bronco. Has Alex Atwood in the back seat in a much thinner time and last gray hair. But it also had the distinction of being the slowest airplane in the Marine Corps inventory. That airplane would travel about 3.5 miles a minute. And the reason I put it up there is for this simple reason. Do the math. It doesn't take long for an aircraft to come into the state of Georgia or to go out of the state of Georgia to be repaired. In the best of all possible worlds, we probably wouldn't need exemptions, but this isn't the best of all possible worlds. I have a sheet here that I'll share with anybody. On this sheet are 31 states that offer sales tax exemptions on repairing aircraft. And so I ask for your favorable consideration, because the aerospace industry in Georgia has over 86,000 jobs. The average aerospace worker makes $64,000 plus a year. This is truly a jobs bill. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I will yield for questions.
You have one question. Do you yield?
I do, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Kidd to your left for a question. He waves. I'm sorry.
I was thanking you, Mr. Speaker.
Do you have a question, or did you wave?
No, I have a question.
I yield.
Thank you, sir.
He yields.
Does this mean when Donald Trump flies his jet into Atlanta to have it reworked, as he did a couple years ago, he doesn't have to pay tax on what's done to his plane?
That's correct. If he'll bring that aircraft in here and have it worked on by Georgians in a Georgian company, and by the way, I neglected to report, and I'll also share with everyone. This is Innovation Magazine. It has all of the aerospace facilities. There's 50 of them in Georgia. This doesn't just affect my district. It affects Savannah, Atlanta, Macon, Columbus, Augusta, many, many districts. So that's correct. But one thing they do, Representative, when people are employed and they do this work and the companies invest in the infrastructure to allow them to do the work, what do? They pay income tax. And so it will benefit our revenue also in the state of Georgia and allow us to pay for the valuable needs that our people have.
Yield again, please, sir.
I will yield, sir.
Does that mean that now that the Falcons quarterback is going to get $20 million a year, that when he buys a jet out of Savannah, that he can't get a tax deduction when he has it reworked? In other words, someone in-state has a Gulfstream jet, and it's 2 years old, and he needs to get some work done on it.
There's a reason for that, and that is correct. I would like to see it applied to everyone, but we wanted to make it very narrow and very, very focused. And the reason being that's been explained to me is that it's called the flyaway clause. When you have your aircraft parked here permanently, you're rendering yourself to the fire services and the police services and all those services throughout the year. People that fly in to have them worked do not in fact do that. And there was one thing that I meant to mention in 2009 and 2010, the Special Counsel on Tax Reform recommended that numerous sales tax exemptions be eliminated. This was not one of them. Not only did they recommend that we continue it, they recommend that we make it permanent. I'm not asking for that. Just 2 years, that's all I'm asking for.
One last question, if you will, please, sir.
I will, sir.
Do you not think what's fair for somebody from New York is also fair from somebody from Georgia?
If they don't come here, we don't get the work. If we don't get the work, our people aren't employed. That's what I'm trying to do. With that, Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Chair recognizes Representative Watson to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Simply put, this bill allows people from outside of the state of Georgia to fly in to get their planes repaired. This benefits not only Savannah, but Columbus, Macon, and Augusta. This is a good bill. I must say that to not allow those planes to get the same break that they get in other adjoining states, whether it's Florida, Texas, or elsewhere, is just not fair. These people pay good income taxes here. They are good paying jobs here in the state of Georgia, and they're a great benefactor to our state. Let me just simply put, where I live, the employer there started out with jobs, about 4,000 employees in the state. Over 4 years, they're now up to 8,500 employees in our state. That's like putting one Kia plant in the city of Savannah. So I would certainly ask for your favorable consideration for this bill, and Mr. Speaker, I'll yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 164 will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. For what purpose does Representative Chokas rise?
House Rule, Mr. Speaker, pursuant to House Rule 133, I request to be excused from this vote.
The gentleman has that right, and the journal will so reflect. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 164. The ayes are 169, the nays are 3. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. The clerk will read the caption to House Bill 323. House Bill 323.
House Bill 323 by Representative Powell, 32nd, Bill to be entitled Act Title 40, relating to identification, regulation of motor vehicles so as to modify the age for operation of certain commercial motor vehicle operators, to amend Code Section 40-1-167 relating to required information on license plates of limousines. Bill has been for the House Committee on Motor Vehicles. The committee recommends the bill do pass by committee substitute. The bill is being read today for the third time.
Chair recognizes Chairman Powell. Chairman Powell to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and ladies and gentlemen. For the benefit of some of the freshmen, I want to talk a little bit, preface this bill a little bit this morning, and explain why and what this is really all about. This is what we call a compliance bill. This is a department bill brought to you today by the Department of Public Safety Motor Carrier Division. And I say this because I need to probably apologize for being a little bit testy this morning for some of the questions that was answered that I took it for granted that most people should have known. So I will apologize to some of y'all for not being as patient as maybe I should be. But I want to tell you what, every year we do a compliance bills for a lot of the agencies in state government. Not changing law, it's only putting their rules and regs in compliance. I know, and a lot of people are familiar with me saying I apologize, but the Department of Public Safety, there's several changes in this bill this year. This codifies the safety regulations that's been brought forth in the changes under the Federal Motor Carrier Act. This strengthens some of the regulations on the payments on some of these fines, the civil fines, on weights and some infractions on safety violations, clarifies, basically it mirrors the federal definition. It puts some of the state rules and regs that the Department of Public Safety has, puts them into code because some of the district attorneys around the state have decided that they won't prosecute on some of these more egregious citations unless it's in code as opposed to the rule and reg. It's basically cleanup language. It clarifies. 2 years ago, this General Assembly moved all of that language from limousines, wreckers, all of these other types, house movers. It was moved from the Public Service Commission over to the Department of Public Safety. This basically realigns the codes, puts it all into compliance. And with that, Mr. Speaker, there is an amendment because I will tell you that this bill was so complicated it took several weeks of drafting and cleanup. And at the end of the day, we left one section out that would allow the Department of Public Safety to issue fines and collect fines on weight violations. So there is an amendment that's being offered to this that it needs to go into this bill. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I'll be glad to yield for questions. And
Chair recognizes Chairman Rogers to your right for a question.
Chairman Yield.
Yes, sir.
Isn't it true you've always been kind of testy?
Only testy when people from Hall County that should know better ask me a question.
Will you further yield?
Yes, sir.
I did read the bill, and on lines 115, why are we charging $50 for a fine there where we normally charge $15, I thought? If I'm wrong, you correct me, Mr. Chairman.
On line 150?
115.
115. Seatbelt violation for a commercial vehicle, not the passenger vehicle. State law dictates what it is on a passenger vehicle at $15. This is $50 for those that are driving commercial rigs that have CDL licenses.
Will you further yield?
I certainly will.
Is that a federal requirement?
My understanding that this puts it in compliance with the federal rules and regs.
So what you're saying is it is a $50 fine?
If the Department of Public Safety has told me the truth, then that's what it is.
Okay. Will you further yield for another question or two?
Certainly.
On lines 249 and through 256, can you explain to me what all that does, please?
That looks to me to be lawyer language.
Will you further yield?
I certainly will.
Will you please explain that to me in non-lawyer language?
Well, you know what? I guess I'm going to probably have to get a lawyer up here to explain that.
Maybe the two of y'all could have that discussion over lunch.
He's too testy for me, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
You
I'm
have
sure
no
the Speaker
further
can answer
questions.
that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd appreciate your consideration of this bill.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on House Bill 323? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any there is an amendment. Clerk will read the amendment.
Representative Powell, 32nd, moves to amend the House Committee on Motor Vehicles Substitute, House Bill 323. This amendment has been approved by the Rules Committee on the modified structure. It's printed. The amendment is printed in your calendar books with the bill. Upper right-hand corner, AM 350321.
Is there any objection to adopting the Powell Amendment, AM 350321? The chair hears none. The amendment is adopted. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute as amended? The chair hears none. The committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 323 will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 323. The ayes are 161, the nays are 7. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair recognizes Representative Peake for a motion. Representative Peake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're going to give this another shot today. I move that the House insist on its position to the Senate substitute to House Bill 266 and that a committee of conference be appointed.
Representative Peake, I think that's a motion to insist on the House position to the Senate substitute as amended by the House. Is that right? Okay. Just checking. Representative Peake has moved that this House insist on its position to the Senate substitute to House Bill 266 as amended, and that a committee of conference be appointed. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 266 by Representative Peake, 141st, bill entitled 48, Letter Revenue and Taxation, so as to define the terms Internal Revenue Code of 1986.
Is there objection to the motion? Is there objection to the motion? The chair hears none. This House has insisted. The chair appoints as a committee of conference from the House Representative O'Neill from the 146th, Representative Peake from the 141st District, and Representative Rice from the 95th District as a conference committee. All right, we have 2 or 3 announcements that need to be made at this time. 3 have signed up. If you signed up, we're going to recognize you very quickly. Chair recognizes Chairman McCall for an announcement. Chairman McCall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You should have received an invite on your desk from McDonald's. They have all the food you want to eat down in 216, so go help yourself. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Stevens for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This afternoon at 5:30, if we're finished, the Consular Corps will host us at the High Museum. I hope you'll join us. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Sims for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I need the Intergovernmental Coordination Committee to meet in the anteroom as we break for lunch.
Chair is advised that we have another former member of the House on the floor today, former Representative Vernon Jones from DeKalb County. All right, this House is going to be in recess until 2 o'clock p.m. 2 o'clock p.m.